Hey, what's up, Metaludins? I have a new Mystery Science Theater review, and I am taking on a MST3K episode that I've been requested, geez, just ever since I actually ever started talking about Mystery Science Theater. And it's not an episode, it's MST3K, the movie, which I actually have a poster up on the wall over here. And I have an interesting relationship with this film, as probably some Misties do. I went to see it in the theater, actually, I think 4 times in 1 week. I was pretty happy to see it, actually. And this was a difficult time because they were having problems with Comedy Central, and it was looking like they were going to be leaving the air. So this was like, oh man, one time I can see it on the big screen with people, and I may never see it again soon, and stuff like that. Well, the movie came out on video, and here I have my original video cassette right here. And of course, you know, it's video, so there's no extra features or anything like that. But I bought this like instantly. I think I put money down on it, actually, before it came out. I put $5 down on it. So it's out on DVD, but I still have not bought a DVD version of this film. And because this DVD has the same amount of extras as this cassette. Yeah, it came out a few years ago, and it was pretty much bargain basement. You know, the kind of like DVD you see at Walmart at the checkout stand, next to like the bargain basement of like Devil's Rejects and you know, the third Santa Claus movie. So I decided to hold off. It's like, well, Shout Factory's, you know, doing a big deal with Mystery Science Theater. Why don't I just wait until that? And I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. So that's actually why I didn't do a review of Mystery Science Theater movie up until just now, because I don't have it on DVD, and I had to go rent it. And since I've actually put this video off for a couple of days, I'm actually late on the video. So, oops. But hey, I held it up. That's worth a couple bucks. And so here we go. Here's the problem with actually, well, I'll get into that. Mystery Science Theater. The movie is the core group at the time, Mike and the core group, Best Brains Incorporated, and they had gotten more and more interested in doing a film because they had done MST3K Alive a few times and really noticed how much people enjoyed seeing this together in an audience. And I have, and it is pretty fantastic seeing it with other Misties. So that's when this project kind of got going. They signed a deal, and they've been doing this show for like 6 years, 7 years if you count KTMA. They pretty much knew what they were doing. So what's interesting is when I hear them talk about behind the scenes, all of a sudden, once they had a movie studio attached, didn't matter how cheap this movie was being made, you know, considering other movies. They had like 8,000 people like put their hands in this kind of project, telling them how to do things, how to, you know, what approaches to take, asking them questions they never even thought to ask, like, hey, who's the least popular character on the show? It's like, oh, I don't know. We like them all. I don't. So it is written in a way that is definitely trying to bring in the noobs. Definitely trying to reach a wider audience. And the premise is still the same. Mike Nelson is trapped in a satellite flying around Earth. He's trapped there. He has only for company Tom Servo, Crow T. Robot, and Gypsy, who kind of pilots the ship. And it is an evil experiment by Dr. Clayton Forrester in order to figure out. It's like the Killing Joke from Monty Python. You know, they're trying to find that one, you know, joke that will kill people from, you know, cause them to die from laughter. And Dr. Forrester is trying to find that one terrible film that will drive a person insane. So once he reaches that film, once he figures out with his test subject, he's going to turn it on to the world and drive everyone insane and take over the world. That's the plan of Dr. Forrester, by the way. Oh, and so this is just another experiment, and it is This Island Earth, which I have right here on the back here. What was considered up until then kind of like one of the classics, like The Day the Earth Stood Still and Forbidden Planet, and to some like lesser extent Earth versus Flying Saucers. The problem is, and Mike brought this up a lot in interviews, like, no one really seen it for a long time, and no one really took a good look at it. Nothing really happens in this movie. It looks really good, actually, and even to this day, I think I've seen it on the big screen a whole bunch of times. The film looks great, but the script is kind of really, well, crap, actually. It's not a very good script. And, well, that's what they definitely do pick apart. What's interesting in the riffing in this episode, I keep calling it an episode, that's the thing. It's a movie version of MST3K, but it's pretty much just another episode, because every episode is 2 hours long anyway. It's not like, you know, a half-hour TV show or hour TV show, like, you know, Simpsons or X-Files or something like that. It's actually indistinguishable from a movie, except for the set looks really fantastic. The effects, you know, while it's not Lucas CGI effects, the effects are a little bit more expensive. The lighting's a little bit better, and the sets are a little bit better. It's the same set we're supposed to always be seeing, but it's just a little more depth to it. And we also get to see reverse angles, like, you know, what Mike and the bots see when they talk to Forrester. I think it's a nice touch. And we get to see different parts of the ship, which we never really get to see, like the basement and Tom Servo's room. And we get to see them walking back from the theater, which is interesting too. And let's see, the riffing is done in a way where it's not too obscure. Now, anybody who watches an average episode of Mystery Science Theater will realize that there's a lot of obscure references, even to shit that just happens to them in their real life, which is hilarious, and you have to read back later. Like in a Gamera episode, Mike makes a reference to a girlfriend he had. It's like, how the fuck am I supposed to get that? But it is funnier once you learn about it. It's like, oh, that's kind of funny. And then that moment comes up when Tom Servo says, with the girl that's running away, he yells, "Stop! He's got Mike's keyboard!" It's like, okay. No jokes like that in the movie. They're all pretty much mainstream kind of references. There are a few smarter references in the movie, but the object was definitely to not scare off anybody, like, oh, this is too weird for me, I can't get this. But I think they do a really good job kind of balancing that. You know, it doesn't feel dumbed down in any way. There is, if I do have a complaint, it does seem like the direction of the acting by Mike and Forrester in particular seems a little more campy than usual on both parts. They play their parts a little bit bigger than they normally do. I'm not sure what that was about, because Jim Allen directed this. I think he... Whew, boy, this is tiny. There's a billion people who worked on this film. I believe Jim Allen directed this. They didn't bring in somebody else. So I am a little, like, confused sometimes, like, why did Mike and Trace kind of play their parts a little bit bigger than they usually do. But other than that, I've had no real complaints about that. As far as the film, what's interesting is this, I think, goes back into reaching a mainstream audience, is that this movie that makes fun of This Island Earth is actually 10 minutes shorter than the actual movie. So they had to cut scenes. But the problem is, when they usually cut scenes for the TV show, they have to, like, make room for the host segments and the commercials, obviously. Otherwise, you know, they wouldn't be able to control how long, you know, an episode is. Could be shorter, could be longer, and stuff like that. This, they didn't really have a problem, but they chose to do that anyway. My guess is they were worried if mainstream audiences would get tired of the joke by the time, you know, the film reached the 2-hour mark. So I think that's probably what they did. That's just me guessing. I wish they hadn't have done that. I think they should have just trusted themselves. But that's kind of that. I think this movie is a good episode. It's not as good as some of their better episodes, you know, like Manos and Time of the Apes and Space Mutiny. And is there one? Is there one I'm missing here that? Like you really love Overdrawn at the Memory Bank.
Yeah, Overdrawn and Jack Frost.
Yeah, Jack Frost.
It's a really good one.
Yeah, those are better than this one. It's kind of middle of the road. It's a good, solid episode compared to the rest of the series. It's also a good introduction to people who aren't so sure about the concept. Another problem is this took place in between Frank leaving and Mary Jo coming on, so Forster doesn't have any sidekick, which is kind of weird. It's the only time he has no sidekick, actually. He always had Josh Weinstein or Frank or Mary Jo, and then Mary Jo had her sidekicks. So yeah, this is the only solo act we've seen from the Mad Scientists, which is weird. That's probably why Trace had to play it up big. He didn't have anybody to play up against and stuff like that. So, you know, it's too bad that this kind of came into that time. Maybe if Frank was still around, you know, we could have seen them play off each other, which would have been fun. The host segments are really funny. I particularly like Tom Servo's scene in his room where they built a I forgot what that machine was. Whatever. They communicated with one of the Metalunan aliens, and every time he tried to touch something, it just shot Zerfo in the face, no matter what he did. The riffing, of course, is really good. Some of my favorite jokes are about the Metalunans themselves, which they have these huge heads, and we're supposed to think, well, that's kind of strange. Like, well, yes, it's fucking strange. They have gigantic heads. I'm guessing that's where the Saturday Night Live sketch from the 70s came from, the Coneheads, with these people with giant heads, these aliens with giant heads, and they're all supposed to be fitting in. It's like, no, they're not fitting in. Their heads are this big. So they quite a few good jokes about that. This film passes around some really good material here and there. The professor from Gilligan's Island is in the movie for 10 minutes, and they don't leave that alone. They all have really good impressions of the lead actor's voice, Cal. He has a very deep, heroic voice, which is also funny considering he doesn't do anything. He doesn't affect this plot at all. Because the film has these aliens, you know, God, I don't know what it's about. They get invited to this think tank by these strange guys, these Metalunans, who have this machine that, you know, can talk to people, you know, with a view screen, you know, like we have Skype now. But, you know, in the 50s, that was crazy. So, yeah, he goes to this convention, there's a whole bunch of scientists there, and then they kidnap him and Ruth. They kill everybody else. They take them back to their planet, I guess to help. I guess this is sort of Last Starfighter, where they were trying to find somebody who could help us. So they get there, and the planet is kind of blown up anyway. So they escape, and that's it. I think there's some mention that the Metalunans were going to invade Earth, but they couldn't get around to it because they were busy being destroyed by their enemies. So yeah, I don't know. It's not a very interesting plot. There's some interesting things that happen in the movie, and maybe if somebody took a better pass at the script, this could have been a much better film, much more satisfying film. I think this film, was able to keep up as sort of an iconic film because of the special effects. I think the special effects look really good, and they still hold up over all this time. And I think it's a superficial experience, trying to play off as something meaningful, which it does not. And Mike and the Bots really kind of dig right into that. I think that's something they really do enjoy. I think that's it for now. I think this is a really solid experience. If you can find it on DVD, definitely check it out, or Netflix, or whatever you kids watch these days. I'm still waiting for the special edition with all sorts of crazy stuff. Until then, I'll probably just rent it, or maybe buy a VCR. But I'm going to give this one, I'd say probably 4 RAM chips. Nice 4 strong RAM chips. If you can ever see it with your friends, definitely check it out. I think that's it, so push the button, Lindsay.